We are currently witnessing a masterclass in branding and marketing from none other than Canva. So I am a graphic designer, brand designer. I've been doing this for nearly a decade. Now I've been running my own business for 5 years, and I have been an avid Adobe user, right? I mean, when Canva first came out, I was not super impressed with the platform. I was one of the people kind of shitting on Canva and saying, you're not a real designer if you're using Canva. You need to be using the Adobe programs. That's industry standard. That's what we need to be using. That's what you need to know in order to be qualified. But as the years have progressed, Canva has drastically improved their services. It's drastically improved their platform, and they have grown as a brand that we all need to be looking at, especially today as they have merged with Affinity. Canva has been one of Adobe's big competitors for a while. So they both entered the scene, both Canva and Adobe's subscription model, right around the same time. And while Canva was built for, I would say, like the layman, and Adobe was built for more of a designer with a design background who can understand a more complex platform, both of them hit the market targeting similar people. Now, unfortunately for Canva, a lot of designers, when they entered the market, so when Canva entered the market, were so attached to Adobe. They had been using the Adobe programs prior to this. They had been leveraging and utilizing their CDs. So this was before Adobe went to the subscription models. They were purchasing the CDs or the software. They would upload that to their computers and they would use that forever. And so when Adobe discontinued that licensing and you had to now purchase the subscription model, they were right in line with what Canva was doing. Only difference is Adobe had a lot more tools. You could go a lot more in depth. But over the years, Canva has significantly increased the tools and abilities of their platform. Me, as a designer, I find myself working in Canva quite often, especially because it is also a lot more transferable to my clients than an Adobe file is. After the main branding process, I want to be able to hand off files to a client and allow them to use those for what they actually need them for. So oftentimes that is social media posts, that is online banners, that is lead magnets, those kinds of things. And I don't expect my clients to be paying $60+ a month for a program that they won't know how to use, which is where Canva comes in. Now, what has Canva done recently that completely changes the game? Well, I'm about to tell you. But first, if you're new here, my name is Hunter Myers. I am the face and mind behind Verger Design Co. And I am here to help bold founders build magnetic brands that sell with confidence, clarity, and connection. And here on this channel, we treat branding a little bit like dating because both require chemistry, commitment, and a killer first impression. Now let's dive into what Canva just did recently that completely changed the game and is what you need to be paying attention to if you want to lean into a strong, bold marketing strategy where you are listening to your customers' needs and delivering them while maintaining your brand values. Now, I already told you guys that Adobe and Canva have kind of been competitors for a while, but I've not mentioned Affinity. So Affinity has been the closest competitor to Adobe because they offer very similar software to what Adobe offers. The only difference is Affinity has leaned into the buy once, have forever. So they did not go to a subscription model. And the subscription model is something that a lot of graphic designers have complained about with Adobe. And so instead of leaning that direction, Affinity decided to do the purchase once, use forever. You can purchase updates down the line, but that kind of licensing model. So why is this important? Well, in 2024, Canva decided to purchase Affinity. So they have now partnered together. Affinity is part of Canva. And this is going to be really important for what we're going to be talking about. But before we do, I think it's important to tell you Adobe's process for going to their subscription model. So in 2008, when the recession was happening, Adobe found that they were losing customers. So they were losing profit because people were no longer purchasing an upgrade. They were choosing, okay, well, I'll just upgrade later when I have the money. I can still use this software now. And what Adobe noticed is that other platforms that were on a subscription model, which is that pay to play model, got to continue to make revenue during the recession. And so in 2008 is when their team started to play with the idea of turning their licensing in their platform and everything into a subscription. So in 2011 is when they announced that they were going to be moving to a subscription. In 2013 is when they really started to roll it out, which is the same time that Canva hit the market. Now let's look at both Adobe's core values, their brand values, and Canvas. So I've got a sheet of paper here that I want to make sure that I'm saying these correctly. So for Adobe, one of their biggest brand values is innovation. It is the next big thing. It is always investing in innovative creativity. And they say on their website that customers are central to their success. Now, this is going to be really important because as we are entering this AI era, Adobe has leaned very heavily into investing in AI and incorporating AI into its services and its platform. Now, the problem with this is quite a few artists are like vehemently against AI and the use of it because of how it is being trained, which is on the back of stolen work from artists and creatives. And when Adobe introduced that they were going to be using more AI or introducing more AI to their platform, they increased their subscription. So what used to be about $30 a month jumped to $60+ a month for their products. And a lot of people were very frustrated. I was one of them. I had looked at the Affinity programs and considered switching because it was a buy once, have it, and not having to pay consistently month after month after month for a bunch of programs and features that I wasn't necessarily using. But having said that, they did still stick with their core values, which is the innovation. Now, where I think they started to slip up is in their statement that customers are central to their success. Because what we are seeing right now are budgets tightening. We're seeing people's finances getting a little rougher. We are entering what I believe is the next recession. And a lot of creatives and small business owners are feeling that squeeze on their budgets and their wallets. And Adobe's continuous increase in their subscription is not helping the customers where they need the help the most. Instead, it almost feels like a money grab of sorts in order to stay flashy and relevant to their stakeholders as opposed to their customers, which again, many of their customers have stated, like, I'm not interested in these AI features. And the problem is a lot of their customers are also freelancers. So you've got agencies who are using, who have a higher budget, but there's also freelancers who have to pay for these platforms who are struggling more and more to find work. Not to mention AI in a lot of ways has cut some jobs for designers or has made it more difficult for the people using their platform to get work or get paid as much for that work because of AI. Now, let's switch gears and look at Canva. Canva, on the other hand, has the value of making creativity and design accessible. On their website, they talk about how they want to be a force for good, be a good human, and things like that. And so how Canva has upheld these values is by making sure that their subscription model for their platform has stayed low. There was one point where they talked about raising the model, and if I remember correctly, they got backlash and decided to adjust things. So they have been listening to their customer base, which is really, really important if you are going to be operating a brand and a business, is listening to what your customers are saying. And I think this is where Adobe has slipped up. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people and designers who are leaning into AI, which I think is wonderful for them. But at the same time, there are a lot of other people who are against it. And Adobe's customer base seems to be divided. And it seems like Canva noticed that. And so here's what Canva did. As I said, Canva acquired Affinity in 2024 during Adobe's largest conference of the year, which is Adobe Max, which is a huge deal. Like, a ton of designers talk about going to it. It is where these big innovations are shared. It's where a lot of creative minds get together and talk design and the platform and the new things that are coming out. So while this is happening, which this year has been October 28th through October 30th. So October 28th of 2025 through October 30th. On October 29th, so smack dab in the middle of Adobe Max, where everyone on social media is talking about Adobe Max, which is Canva's largest competitor, Canva drops that they have created a platform with Affinity, so in partnering with Affinity, that is all about creative freedom, and those tools are free for life. Now, if you remember earlier in this video, I talked about that Affinity was one of Adobe's closest competitors. So Canva just absorbed Adobe's closest competitor. It listened to what complaints were coming up from Adobe subscribers, which was, this subscription is getting very, very expensive. I don't want to keep paying this. I feel like you're gouging me for more profits. And they decided to make Affinity free. So what does this do? This not only supports their value of accessible design, but they also, looking at the economic climate, seeing how people were hurting financially. This is a huge opportunity to pull people from their competitor, Adobe, who is just increasing their subscriptions, over to a platform like Canva, who they had been competing for a while, right? But now Canva has many of the tools to directly compete with Adobe. And by offering it for free, pulling people over, they are working so well to steal customers from Adobe, who is no longer putting the customer's needs first. And what I think is freaking bold as hell is that they chose to announce this in the middle of Adobe Max. Now, I don't know if you have seen the movie A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff, but this feels like when she walks into the prom or the homecoming dance in her getup and everyone stops and stares. So you've got like the popular girls who think they're the hottest thing there. And then she walks in and the whole school just pauses. Canva just pulled a Cinderella. Like they just came in and changed the game. And this is what I want you to be taking away from this. What did Canva do well? They have stuck to their values. All of them. Whereas I personally feel Adobe has stuck to the innovative one, but has left some of their customers behind in the process. Now, what Adobe could have potentially done differently is create a different subscription tier where people could choose to use the AI and pay more money, but others could choose not to use it if they didn't want to, and it would be less money. What did Canva also do? They listened to what was happening in the economic climate. They listened to the pain points of the people in the market, in their audience, the people who not only they already had, because they have over, I believe, 250 million subscribers already to Canva, 250 million users, many of which are pro subscribers, right? So they're making money there. And they use this opportunity to, instead of trying to make another cash grab, because they could easily have charged for Affinity, they could have easily done exactly what Adobe did, which was increase prices because they have added features. But instead of doing that, they chose to stick with their value, which is accessible design and accessible creativity, and launch a product that is disrupting the market. And right now, with the market so flooded with ideas and new tech and all of this and the overwhelm that consumers are feeling, Canva did this right by providing a powerful tool that many people who could be using their platform but have chose not to because they didn't quite have the features they needed can now switch to without having to pay anything. So they are going to be saving money, which, mind you, they will have to be spending time because people are going to have to learn. Affinity is still different from Adobe. It is close and similar, but it is not the same. But they have made this transition even easier. So now I'm not asking someone, or they're not asking someone, to switch from Adobe, which is $60 a month, to another platform, which is, I don't know, like a couple $100s to just get once or anything like that. We're not asking them to pay any money. All they're saying is invest your energy and your time into learning this platform, and we will reward you for it by not making you pay for it moving forward. Now, obviously, if you want additional features, you will have to pay for Canva Pro, but that subscription is less than $13 a month compared to over $60 a month over at Adobe. And there's word that Canva is also working on a video editing tool right now. So let's flash back to 2013 when Canva just launched and designers like me were shitting on it like crazy. We're talking about how this is nothing. People who use Canva are not legit, so on and so forth. They ignored those comments and they said, you know what? We're going to do this differently. We're going to keep going. We're going to innovate because we're going to stick with what it is that we care about, which is making design accessible for everyone. And through that, and through over a decade of standing by those values and working behind the scenes and listening to their customers and creating what their customers are asking for and needing, they have, in my opinion, completely changed the creative software game for the better. So if you are building a brand and thinking about what you can do and looking at your competitors and listening to your customers and trying to decide how you can disrupt the market, look at what Canva has done and look at what they continue to do. Use them as an example of how you can move your brand forward, disrupt your industry while still sticking to your values and giving your customers what they want and need. I've been working with Adobe for well over a decade, and I'm considering the switch, and that's saying something. Now, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can comment. I am here. I talk about things like this every week. Feel free to share it with anyone else that you know that you think could benefit from learning from Canva here. I am very impressed with what they have done. Their marketing team has been phenomenal in this. They also teamed up with designers to make sure that what they were building was actually useful. So again, Canva is giving us a masterclass. Let's pay attention. Like I said, like and subscribe. That is all for now. I will see you guys in the next one.